In the early 1980s, a chilling tale unfolded around Dorothy Jane Scott, a devoted single mother. It all began with mysterious phone calls to her workplace, filled with both declarations of love and ominous threats. But things took a sinister turn when Dorothy found a withered rose on her car's windshield, a haunting symbol of her stalker's twisted intentions. Despite feeling unnerved, Dorothy couldn't identify the voice on the other end of the line. It sounded familiar, yet remained elusive, shrouded in mystery. Then, one fateful night, she vanished without a trace. It happened during a routine staff meeting, when Dorothy noticed a coworker in distress. Concerned, she and another colleague rushed him to a nearby hospital, leaving her car in the parking lot. But when her coworkers emerged from the hospital, Dorothy was nowhere to be found. As they searched for her, they glimpsed her car speeding away, leaving behind only unanswered questions and a lingering sense of dread. Days turned into weeks, weeks into months, yet Dorothy remained missing, her fate a haunting mystery. For long years passed before a grim discovery shattered the silence. Dorothy's burned remains were unearthed at a construction site, leaving investigators baffled and her loved ones grieving. To add to the confusion, a collection of dog bones lay beside her, adding another layer of intrigue to an already perplexing case. Despite exhaustive efforts, no suspect was ever apprehended, no answers ever found. The elusive caller remained at large, his identity and motives forever obscured in the shadows. And as the years stretched on, the memory of Dorothy Jane Scott faded into the realm of urban legend, a cautionary tale of the dangers that lurk in the darkness, waiting to claim their next victim. A few years back, my boss took off for a relaxing getaway in Spain, looking forward to soaking up the sun and enjoying some downtime. But his holiday took a sharp turn when he received a distressing call from the police midway through. It was about his sister. She had been caught in a fire in her apartment, and tragically, she didn't make it. He hurried back home, his mind swirling with disbelief and sorrow. Dealing with the police and the aftermath of his sister's passing weighed heavily on him. Our bosses advised him to take time off to mourn, which he did. When he returned to work a few weeks later, we gathered in the coffee room to offer our condolences and support. After some time, he excused himself and headed to his office to start his day. Sitting at his desk, he powered up his computer, hoping for a semblance of normalcy. But what happened next sent shivers down our spines. As he checked his voicemail, the very first message played, and it was his sister's voice, frantic and terrified, pleading for help, gasping for breath as flames engulfed her. The shock and horror of that moment left him reeling. The trauma of hearing his sister's final cries echoed through the office, leaving us all shaken to the core. It's a memory that still haunts me, a stark reminder of the fragility of life and the unexpected twists it can take. And for him, it was a moment of unimaginable anguish, one that would leave a lasting scar on his soul. Between 1978 and 1991, a chilling reign of terror gripped the city of Milwaukee as Jeffrey Dahmer, known as the Milwaukee Cannibal, committed a series of heinous crimes. Over the span of 13 years, Dahmer preyed upon 17 men and boys, ending their lives in brutal fashion before dismembering their bodies and keeping their organs and bones as grisly trophies. The roots of Dahmer's depravity can be traced back to his childhood, where he exhibited disturbing behaviors from an early age. Fascinated with deceased animals, he referred to their bones as fiddlesticks, and took perverse pleasure in the sound they made. Some speculate that his fixation may have stemmed from witnessing his father removing animal corpses from their home's foundation when he was just a young child. In 1991, Dahmer's reign of terror came to an end when one of his intended victims managed to escape and alert the authorities. Upon his capture, Dahmer confessed to his crimes, revealing the depths of his depravity. Despite being diagnosed with multiple mental disorders, including borderline personality disorder and psychotic disorder, Dahmer was deemed legally sane at his trial. Years later, on September 21, 2022, Netflix released a 10-part biographical crime drama series titled Dahmer Monster: The Jeffrey Dahmer Story. The dramatization of Dahmer's crimes sparked outrage and condemnation from the public, particularly from the families of his victims who were forced to relive their loved ones' horrific deaths. As the true extent of Dahmer's atrocities was brought to light once again, the public grappled with the chilling realization of the evil that lurked within their midst. And though Dahmer met a violent end at the hands of a fellow inmate, the scars he left on the fabric of society serve as a sobering reminder of the darkness that resides within the human soul. In September 2014, the tranquility of a Utah neighborhood was shattered by a grim discovery. A young boy returned home to find a scene straight out of a nightmare. His parents and 3 brothers lay lifeless, their bodies cold and still. As authorities delved into the investigation, they stumbled upon a chilling clue inside the house: a to-do list, innocuous at first glance, with tasks scrawled upon it: feed the pets, find someone to watch the house. This seemingly ordinary list took on a sinister significance in the wake of the tragedy. It hinted at a normalcy that belied the horror that had unfolded within those walls. There was no note, no explanation, leaving behind a void of understanding that only deepened the sense of unease surrounding the case. Autopsies revealed the grim truth: the family had ingested a lethal cocktail of drugs, a fatal choice that defied reason and explanation. But the question lingered like a shadow in the night. Why? How could a loving family meet such a gruesome end? In the ensuing weeks, as the community grappled with shock and grief, more unsettling details emerged. Family members recounted conversations filled with fear and foreboding, whispers of an impending apocalypse that haunted the parents' thoughts and dreams. It seemed that their terror of an uncertain future had driven them to the brink of madness, compelling them to take the ultimate, irreversible step. The revelation sent shivers down the spines of all who heard it, casting a pall of dread over the once idyllic neighborhood. The idea that such fear could grip a family so tightly, driving them to such desperate measures, was a chilling reminder of the fragility of the human psyche. As the investigation drew to a close and the headlines faded into memory, the tragedy of the Utah family served as a sobering cautionary tale, a haunting reminder of the darkness that lurks within us all. And though the details may fade with time, the questions that linger, why, how, will continue to echo in the hearts and minds of all who bear witness to the story. It was a warm summer evening in my late 20s, and I found myself sitting alone in my girlfriend's family home. Her sister had been tragically taken from them just a few months prior, and the loss still hung heavy in the air. I had come over to wait for my girlfriend, who was working a late shift at the hospital as a nurse. Her parents were out, leaving me to my thoughts in the quiet house. I settled onto the couch in the family room, turning on the TV to pass the time. Suddenly, I heard a clear and distinct voice call my name. It was my girlfriend's sister, her voice as familiar to me as my own. I turned to look, expecting to see her sitting next to me, but the seat was empty. I stared at the spot next to me, my heart racing. The voice had been so real, so tangible. I couldn't shake the feeling that she was there with me, watching over me in some way. The moment stayed with me long after I left the house that night, a haunting reminder of the loss that her family had suffered. The trials and aftermath of her sister's death had been devastating for my girlfriend and her family. But in that moment, I felt a strange sense of comfort, as if her sister was still with us in some way. It was a small moment of solace in the midst of unimaginable grief.